this is Anna with Craft Me a Card, and I love crafting for the crafter, and that is you. Well, this is what we discovered last week by covering a piece of glossy photo paper with oxide sprays. And this is when we did the smushing technique with oxide inks, the ink pads. Well, now I decided to emboss photo glossy paper and then cover it with these inks. So as you can see, this is one of those 3D folders, which gives a beautiful impression. But I gotta tell you, regular embossing folders work the same for this technique. Because I learned my lesson last time, I put my piece of glossy photo paper inside a box, and I decide to use the spray old paper. So first I cover it with old paper. Then I go ahead and I clean it off, and there we uncover this light mustard yellow color. And what I like about this is that the actual green color of the oxide stays in the little crannies of this embossed paper. And now I go in with some Tumbled Glass. And I know that this is a ghost color, as I referred to it in the last video, but I am hopeful that some of this blue will stay in the little crevices of the embossed paper. So there it is, exactly what I wanted, that little bit of that blue. I think it gives a beautiful effect and look. But I'm noticing something on this paper. This paper, even though it is glossy, it is not showing up as shiny as the other pieces that I was working on. And that's when I noticed that it is from a different photo paper pack. Even though both of these paper packs are glossy, they both indicate gloss, one of them comes through as shiny and the other one as matte. So this is something you want to take into consideration when purchasing photo paper. You're not going to get the same effect on every kind of photo paper, even though it is all glossy. Now, I checked the specs on both, and they both say the same thing. They both dry instantly, but one is coming out shiny and the other one is coming out matte. The only difference is that one paper is slightly thicker than the other. One is 64 pounds, and that's the one that's coming out as matte, and the other one is 68 pounds. That's the one that is showing up as glossy. And this I tried with different sheets of paper from this paper pack, and they all showed up with the same results. Both beautiful, of course. They're not going to go to waste, but just something to keep in mind. Here I'm showing a card that I did using the glossy one of these two pieces, and I added some hydrangeas, and I'll link up the video where I show you how to do these flowers. And I also did this card but in pink, and instead of adding the blue, I added a little bit of pink. I think it was Spun Sugar, along with a little bit of regular Antiique linen distress spray. And I just added some water, and keep in mind, the more water you add, the lighter the color will be coming out. And this was the result from that. Here they are, side by side, just for you to compare both. Now, having in mind that I've got these two different results using two different glossy papers, photo glossy papers, I went and I grabbed some other glossy photo paper that I had in my stash. Results on this one was completely different. When I sprayed the colors onto this paper and I tried to wipe it off, oh surprise, it did not come off. It didn't come off. It was like peeling. It was just weird. It was dry, but it was mushy in some parts, I guess, where it was kind of wet. But needless to say, I like the results. They were different. It was like a mixed media result. Anyways, I decided to play a little bit more with this kind of paper, and I decided to play with other colors. First, I sprayed Picked Raspberry, then I sprayed Mermaid Lagoon, and then I ended up with some Faded Jeans, just for a little purple. I made sure the whole piece was covered with color. And once again, because of the quality of this paper, the color did not come off. Instead, it gave it another different awesome result. I actually really do hope I could find some more of this paper, because I really enjoyed this technique. It's different. It would be great for like some dragon skin or something, but I really liked it. But this paper pad, believe me, this is from years ago that I've had it. But I want to show you how this worked using some brown inks and some metallics. And here I'm bringing in some antique linen. Then I go in with some vintage photo and some walnut stain. And then I ended up with some hickory smoke. And since the color was staying more on this kind of paper, I added some mica spray to give it some, some bronze look with antiqued bronze. And look at the results from this. Of course, this I did have to let it dry or else it would have smeared everywhere, but the results are awesome. It's so different. Anyways, I want to show you the card that I made with this kind of paper. And I embossed the photo paper. Then I sprayed some picked raspberry on it, then some fired brick, and I didn't let this one sit for long because I felt that it wasn't taking on the fired brick as much, so I decided to grab a paintbrush and just move the color around, and I completely lost it. It did not work. So then I decided to just spray it with some abandoned coral. So then out of desperation, I just went in with some paper and I decided to start lifting up this color because it just wasn't drying. And to my surprise, I got a beautiful looking piece that I really liked. It had a lot of texture, a lot of different color behind it. And because the ink was not wiping off, it was creating some kind of texture on the paper, which I really like because I was getting three colors. I was getting the yellow, I was getting the red, and then I was getting the pink. I was getting hot pink. Anyways, I really liked it. And after lifting much of the color off, this is the piece that I ended up with. So I wanted to combine it with some paper similar to what I had, so I went ahead and I used the paper that I knew would come out shiny, and I sprayed some inks that I knew would come out red because I wanted to die cut a butterfly to put on this piece of paper. And here's a butterfly, and I wanted the butterfly to have a little bit more of that orange, so why not? I got some orange nail polish. It's shiny, so I figured it would work, and it did. It looked nice. It gave it that touch that I was looking for, that little slight orange that I was looking for. I die cut a second butterfly, but this one was with a gold that I created using a gold ink pad. Then I just stuck one butterfly on top of the other. I used a clip to help them dry together. Then I glued the sprayed piece onto a piece of cardstock that I also colored with this gold color box ink pad. Added some mixed media glue, and I stuck my butterfly right in the middle of the card. From a Hero Arts stamp set, I went ahead and I added "Creativity is messy," and yes, it is. Since this was going out to a crafty friend, I thought that this sentiment was perfect. I knew she would appreciate the different texture and colors that was created using this photo paper. And I cut it out, added some glossy accents to the top. And of course, I cannot do without the corners, and I went ahead and I cut some corners using the same paper that I used for the butterfly, for the top of the butterfly. Added some mixed media glue, and I added the corners, and I think that it completed it, and I loved how it came out. I was very content, and this is already completely dry, so this is the final product. And to lift the wings, here's a tip. Just put a little bit of foam adhesive under the wings, and that'll help the wings pop up.
Ooh, ah.
I really liked how it came out. I hope you like it as well. And I hope you learn and you get inspired by watching these videos. And to keep the creativity going and the inspiration going, I'm going to show you something that I had in mind ever since I saw the shininess stay with this photo glossy paper. And that is the one that does wipe off and shines. And that is to do something like if something is spilling and I wanted to do a coffee card. So I just grabbed some vintage photo and I put it in the little cap that the spray bottle has, only because I needed a small container because I didn't want a lot of it. I added some water and I just dragged a dropper across the paper, and I helped it kind of spill. I'm tilting the a board a little bit here. I added a little bit of adhesive to hold the paper down, and I'm just dragging it and helping it, you know, form kind of like a dripping effect. And I decided to add some splats so it could just look like coffee dripping down. I wanted something a little bit darker, so the more water you add, the more diluted the color becomes, and it becomes lighter. So for this next color, I just went ahead and I used the color as is. I put it in the little cap. I grabbed a dropper and I just created the dripping effect. Carefully picking up or soaking up the leftover ink. And I say carefully because you don't want to drag the piece of paper on it because you will smear it. I just go ahead and I lift the excess ink. But even a better idea would be just to grab a paper towel and just place it on top of the card and soak it up that way by pressing on it.
Helps to avoid any smearing.
So here it is, and you can see that it's still very shiny, and it does look like coffee, doesn't it? So learning what I learned with these inks, more water dilutes it more, makes it lighter, I decided to add a second layer, and just something to lighten it up, make it look like maybe some caramel is also dripping down. So again, I add a little bit of ink, add some water, the dropper, and I help it drip down. And there you go. That's what I was looking for, that two-tone look, just to give it more character. Again, using a paper towel, I lift up the excess, and there is my card. And here is a different way of doing this dripping technique, and that's, you know, using different colors. So that's exactly what I did. I decided to use some Wilted Violet, some Mermaid Lagoon, peacock feathers, and twisted citron. Yes, I got a little lazy at the end and I just used the same cap to drip down the ink. But you gotta be careful when you're picking up this extra ink off the paper because, as you could see, I smeared the peacock feathers. But it's okay because it could be covered either with a sentiment or a sequence. Anyways, we have our tricks. So let me show you the card that I created with the one that I wanted it to look like coffee. So I went ahead and I die cut out of glossy paper the words "Coffee Birthday to You." And you would be surprised, but this paper die cuts pretty well. I think all the glossy paper that I've used, the photo glossy paper, has die cut very well. I went ahead and with some vintage photo and I sprayed the words and the letters coffee. I wanted them to have the same shade as the coffee that's dripping down. If not same shade, maybe something a little lighter. And so I just cut the piece that I did the drips on for it to be a little smaller than my card base because I want it to have a little frame. I did the letters for the coffee two-tone, went ahead and I added them to some foam adhesive, added some mixed media glue, and I stuck them in the middle of the card. And then under that, I glued on the words "Birthday to You." After the front is finished, I went ahead and I glued this on to my card base, which is this pretty minty green color. And I finished it off, of course, with some sequin. I used 3 different colors of sequin, and I added it here, there, and everywhere.
Here is my beautiful card.
So here it is. I loved how it came out. And again, I really do hope you get inspired, and I hope you create, and I hope you are happy. And here is just a little sneak peek of what I will be sharing with you guys next week. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell to be alerted every time I post a new video. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Oh, I stained it all. All right, off you guys go.
What a mess.